Today I'm going to change the transmission fluid in Jeep Grand Cherokee 2001, and this is almost 20 years old, so if you consider it to be almost kind of, it's still running and I still keep it going since it has low miles compared to the age. It has around 128,000 miles so far, and I usually change the transmission fluid every 30,000 miles or a little more longer. And this one I had done it maybe 5 years ago. It has not been run that far, and I can see some hiccups in the transmission slipping, or kind of not slipping. It's like when at a low speed it does give a little jerk. So I think this is the time to change it. I have the Mopar transmission fluid, and I'll put all the information in there. I use the Mopar original transmission fluid still, though you can probably switch it with an aftermarket. Also, I have a filter, transmission filter. So I usually change the transmission filter when I change the oil, and that's a good thing to do. But if you change it more frequently, you can just switch the oil and don't have to change the filter. Also, what I'm going to do this time is I have an aftermarket pan for transmission, and this is from Dorman, and I'll put the details on it. What it does have is this drain plug, and I don't know why the Jeep decided not to have a drain plug in the transmission fluid, because that helps a lot. And also I have a container to collect the transmission fluid, and I use this one here. It's like if you have a boat, or it's very helpful to pump out any oil that needs to be pumped out. In case of a boat, it's difficult to change the oil without pumping it out. So I use it to pump out the fluid as much as I can, so that I can drop the pan without creating a lot of mess. So what I've done here is I've taken the transmission fluid, the check nozzle out, or the check through where it allows you to check the transmission fluid level. So I'm going to pass it as far as I can, and then I have put it to suck the oil out. You can see what's going on is, as I have created negative pressure or vacuum inside this container, it is going to suck up the oil. So the next thing is to drop the pan, and here I'm underneath the Jeep, and I have a half-inch socket and an extension right here. So, and there are the bolts on all four sides of it. For this bolt over in the corner, you can see that there is not enough clearance, so I have a half-inch smaller socket, and it comes with that quarter-inch extension, and that went in pretty fine. The rest should be fine. You should be able to get the rest of the bolts out easier. You can see that I have kept one or two bolts on each side. So here I've removed the pan. It was not very difficult, but it was not easy either. So you need both your hands, and I couldn't record it. But I got the pan out. There are a couple of things that needs to be transferred to the new pan. Is the magnet here, and looks like not much filing in here. And also I will reuse this gasket. So this gasket can be reused, so you don't have to buy a new gasket. I will just reuse on the new pan. And the fluid looks dirty. So I was able to collect most of the fluid in here. but still it's a little mess, or quite a bit of mess, because when you drop the pan, it's very difficult to catch the last bit unless you have a big bucket. I didn't have a big bucket for this, so either way, the next one should have a drain bolt, and that's what I'm going to put the drain bolt. And this is not very expensive. It was only like $22 on eBay or Amazon, and I was able to get this at that cheap. So I decided even if my pan is really nice still, no rust, nothing, so but I decided to just exchange it with the drain bolt, because the next time I have to change the fluid, I can just use the drain bolt and not worry about taking this whole pan off. So before I put this pan on, I want to make sure that this bolt is tight enough and it will open. So I opened the bolt, and there is a copper washer that comes with it, so I'll tighten it back. I cleaned up the magnet. This magnet can stay there, and it looks like they have designed it properly, so it's just in between the hole. And this one, I took the gasket off the older one, and this is the original gasket that came with the car, so it's pretty old, almost 20 years old. I'm going to still put it in, and you can see that it can go only one way, which is a good thing. So I put the gasket in, cleaned it up, and put it in. The magnet is in. What I've done is I put all the bolts, started the bolts with the gasket in, and so it will be easier to put it in. So for example, I'm going to thread this bolt through the gasket, and that way the gasket will hold this bolt in place. For the filter, you need a Torx screw bit. You can see this, and there are 2 bolts in there, and you should be able to unbolt those 2 screws in there, and then just make sure that you have the pan still, because there is some oil leaking. I will let it drain. Here are the screws, so if you want to see how the screws are, and then this needs a Torx screw bit, so it's helpful if you have this, otherwise it will be difficult to remove it. So when you are changing the transmission fluid and filter, you may want to check the actuator spring, because those are maintenance parts, and I will show it in another video, but my spring had broken and that gave me the issue. So even after I changed my fluid and filter, it was still having issues. So I'm going to change the actuator spring. It's a very inexpensive part. This is like a $5 part, and it's very easy to replace. You have to take off these 6 screws, and the spring will drop off, and you can just replace that. So make sure you check the spring, and even if you don't need to replace it, you should check it every time you service this transmission. Also, what you want to service is this one, is the solenoid. If you have not replaced the solenoid, they need replaced every 30 to 60,000 miles, depending on how much you tow or not. And if you have jerks on your transmission, it's very possible that the solenoid needs to be replaced. So that's what you can watch my other video where I have shown how I replace that solenoid. And always, if you can, use Mopar parts. That will be the best solution for your problems. Since you are doing it yourself, the Mopar parts being a little expensive, still it pays off. Here goes the new filter. Just make sure that you got the screws in the right positions, and that should go in smooth. When tightening the bolts, make sure that you have it positioned properly, and don't tighten all the bolts unless you have seated the bolts properly. And this one is the difficult one, and that's again to take it off. And so I have kept the other bolts a little loose so this one can get seated properly. I have poured in close to 4.5 liters, and I'm going to test the level. Remember, it is cold right now, so it shouldn't be on the top one. So this looks to be okay. After filling up the fluid, I'm going to check for leaks. It's usually, if you run your fingers around, you will be able to see if anything is leaking here. So once I start the engine, I will recycle through the transmission, and I'm going to put it on multiple gears. I'll let the oil circulate and make sure no light is coming on. It is good to drive it for a test drive and then check the fluid again. And if it's low, you may want to top it off and make sure that it is having enough fluid there. And also check it maybe in a few days once you drive it for a little while, and check your transmission fluid. That should complete the fluid change as well as the filter. And also in my case, I switched the transmission fluid pan. If you like it, the video, and if it's useful to you, click the like button. And also I will have the links to where to buy the parts. You can find that all in the video as well.